And now for the Kansas Wesleyan University's Coaches Show with the voice of the Coyotes, Tyler Henry. And now, here's Tyler.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in for another installment of the Kansas Wesleyan Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group. So good to be with you here once again. We're joined, as always, at the top of the hour by co-interim head coaches David Leonard and Chris Snyder. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So you guys come through another real battle, I thought, with a good Tabor team on Saturday. Your guys pull it out with a 28-14 victory. Overall, when you look back at the film, what was your biggest takeaway from the win?
I think that was a really good team win. I think that's a game that we needed where, I think we competed for 4 quarters. I mean, there was no letdown after halftime. We knew Tabor was going to be a difficult opponent. We knew that they weren't going to quit and go away. And so I think our kids prepared really well during the week. And I think on Saturday they did a really good job of, first half executing and then second half coming out and doing the same thing.
Yeah, we've been preaching a lot about adversity, and it was great to see how they handled that, whether it was the weather, us not having a big lead like the previous 2 weeks, playing a full game. So it was pretty easy. I felt like that's why you saw us play better in the second half. And, we were in a close game, so kids are even more locked in. But just really proud of the adversity, just battling through some of the things we went through. That's probably one of the more prouder moments as a coach,
Well, and Coach Leonard, we've talked a little bit about this, over the last couple of weeks. This team, tons of talent, I think tons of confidence. Was that kind of the sense you got all throughout this game on the sideline, that you guys were in control of this game?
I think so. Definitely on the sideline, you got a feel for whoever was going to go in was going to go and give it everything that they had. And that's something that we've been preaching and we've been waiting to see. And I think this was the first game that, we're taking those steps that we've been wanting to take in the right direction. And, that's just the next step for us. And then, from there, we'll continue to grow and improve. And, the biggest thing is we're chasing greatness. We're not chasing a championship. We're focused on us. If we're doing all the right things, everything else will take care of itself.
Well, and speaking of, focused on yourselves, Coach Snyder, you told me on the postgame show last week that, this team, obviously you're playing your opponents, but more importantly, in some ways you are playing against yourself. So far, I'd say 3-0, obviously, in both regards. Where have you seen that battle won by your guys?
I think I look back at the second half of Avila, right? We were in control, but played pretty sloppy the second half, and a little less of the sloppiness against St. Mary's. And then obviously Tabor, we only had 1 turnover. I think we had 5 penalties for 52 yards. So you're cleaning up those kind of things. Those are always big signs. No self-inflicted wounds. Offense is staying off the field or on the field. Sorry, defense got us a lot of key stops and everything like that. And again, just kids sticking together and dealing with that stuff. There was no scared moments. Like when we had that fumble or they score and cut it to, I think, the 7, you didn't see anybody react. It was like, okay, offense is up. And those are all growing points that you like to see because, like Coach Leonard says, when you're on the field, you definitely get a pulse of what the kids are thinking and feeling.
It was another fantastic day for your running game. Luke and Zarek combined for 3 scores and 280 yards. We've talked about it each of the last 2 weeks, but as you watch it happen again, what has been clicking for that unit and again, in the whole front line for your team?
I think we've just been extremely physical up front. I think we've done a good job of, the whole line working together, creating holes, and in the backs, of course, they got to read those holes and stick their foot in the ground and hit them. And I think that's what they've done a really good job of. And I think, it's becoming a thing where as we get into, later in the game, those guys want the ball. And the offensive line is feeding off of it, and they're wanting to run the ball. And there's a lot of great clips of receivers blocking downfield. And I think we're getting a pretty good idea of how to win as a team, where if, defense has a mistake, offense is able to pick them up, and vice versa. And that's where, you start to see a really good team develop is when they're playing good team ball, and helping out each side. And then, of course, Special Forces doing the same thing.
It was also another incredible performance against the run. You guys allowed just 4 net rushing yards against Avila, just 37 net rushing yards allowed against Tabor. When you watch those performances on film, how do you see the team coming out and accomplishing that just outside the numbers?
Yeah, I think, again, touching on what Coach said, just the physicality of the last few weeks, it's been there for our guys. We're pretty sound in what we do. We don't take a lot of chances on defense. We don't play a lot of crazy games and try to out-confuse you for the most part, and same thing offensively. I mean, we do a lot of formations, but at the end of the day, it's a handful of run plays. So when your players just can line up and play, they're going to play faster, they're going to play harder, and I think that's what you've seen in the last few weeks.
It doesn't really seem to matter what you want to do when you play football in the state of Kansas. You have to be able to run the football, especially as we get into November. That temperature is going to start going down here these last couple weeks. When you look at the big strengths of your team here, stopping the run, running the football, do you feel like that kind of gives you an edge as things start to cool off a little bit?
I don't want to say edge. It just is it going to make us have to change our offense or defense going into the last part of the season and say, okay, hey, now we were a pass happy team, but now we're going to start running the ball. Like our kids kind of known our identity since fall camp that we're going to try to run the ball first and defense stop the run. So that part, doesn't really change for us. But yeah, so it's kind of nice that we've already had that buy-in from day one, going into potentially cooler or wetter weather.
I know you guys haven't run, the air raid. You haven't had any crazy numbers in the passing game, but I've been really impressed with the way that Byron McNair and Richard Lara have just been able to go out and engineer drives. They've been playing within themselves. They're not overextending. I think the sacks they have taken have been for, less of a loss than what we saw early in the year. And the big number to meet still only 2 interceptions throughout the course of the entire season. How impressed have you been with those two guys and their ability just to go out and make things happen with the offense being the way it is?
I mean, I'm extremely proud of both of those guys. I mean, I think they've really grown in their game. I think they understand if first read is not there, they're not panicking. They're looking for their check down. If nothing's there, then they're using their feet and they're not taking those big negative plays. And so, you love to see that from any quarterback, but for both of them to be doing that at a high level is fantastic. So, definitely kudos to those guys, but they're doing a really good job of sustaining drives, understanding, how to put together a drive, and playing within the system, playing within themselves. And they've done a fabulous job.
When you take a look at, the awards that were handed out this week, Miles Elam was named Defensive Player of the Week. He had another fantastic performance for you. He continues to lead you guys in tackles. And you look at his frame. I had a chance to come in and interview him and talk to him. He doesn't look like your typical traditional middle linebacker, but then you see the way he plays. So fast, so quick. I think really just relentless as well. What's really impressed you the most about Miles Elam and what he's given you guys that linebacker spot this year?
Well, he's such a quiet kid, or young man. So it is very deceiving. You look at him, and then you can barely even get a hello out of him when you say hi. But again, it's a credit to the coaching staff and the people up front, right? Linebackers don't make plays if the people up front aren't doing the jobs they're doing. So I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you his success is based off of the kids up front. But again, it's great to see success, and those kids receiving those awards. I saw that posted too and everything like that. So he's done an amazing job for us.
Whether you go ahead.
Yeah, I think there was last year we were playing in a developmental game against Coffeyville, and he was moving at a different speed and delivered a hit. And I mean, it caught my eye so much, and I kept thinking, that kid's a player right there. No fear. I mean, he plays with confidence. He plays with an attitude. He plays physical, and I mean, he plays much bigger than his stature.
Overall, when you look at this game, whether you want them to or not, I feel like a lot of the kids and maybe even some of the coaches have had this one circled on the calendar since the schedule came out. It feels like anytime Ottawa and Kansas Wesleyan get together, some emotions tend to run high. Some things maybe, run a little bit higher than usual. How crucial does controlling that feel to your overall success this week?
Yeah, I think it's a big component. I mean, we have to, do the things that we can control and play our game. let anything else get us outside of our how we play our football, our brand. And I think, you get a big game like this, I think it's emotions run a little bit higher, but we have a really good senior class, guys that have been here before, and I think you really rely on their leadership throughout the week, and then especially during the game.
Well, and last thing for both of you guys, and I'll come to both of you on this, but when you have a chance to scout Ottawa this year, what are the biggest things that stand out to you? What are some of the challenges that they present, and what feel like the biggest keys to the game to keep it rolling here in Bissell and make it 4 in a row?
I guess I'll take this one first. Thank you, Coach Leonard. I think it's a cliche, but we've been saying it the last few weeks. We're playing against ourselves because, the longer you go into the season, you're not seeing everybody's running a lot of similarities offensively, defensively. So nothing is going to shock you. I think our motivation is going to be there. They're going to have good players. They're going to make some plays and everything like that. But for us, it's always going to boil down to stopping the run, us running the ball, and just being more physical. And again, the last three weeks, I feel like we've been the more physical team, and the kids have bought into that. And that's kind of what we'll be focusing on.
Yeah, they do a really good job on defense. Corners play a lot of press. Great athletes. They fly to the ball. So, the big thing is in the pass game, when we take shots, we need to execute on those, and then keep establishing the run game that we have been, and then defensively, eliminating big plays. I mean, it's just the same thing as previous weeks and every week. But in a game like this with emotions running high, I think it's even more vital that we once again play within ourselves and control what we can control.
Coach Snyder, Coach Leonard, thank you again so much for your time. Best of luck to your Coyotes this week.
Thank you.
Once again, that was co-interim head coaches David Leonard and Chris Snyder on the KWU Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group. We'll step away, but when we return, the Coaches Show rolls on right here on KINA.
We spend 1/3 of our lives working to build our wealth. With over 50 years of combined experience, Billings Group wants to be there to help manage yours. If you're planning for retirement or looking for financial coaching, then come see us on Westchester Drive, east of the YMCA, or visit our website at billingsgroup.com. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory products and services offered by investment advisory representatives through RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. RFG Advisory, Billings Group, and Private Client Services are unaffiliated entities.
When life deals you a bad call, throw the challenge flag and fight for your rights. With more than 110 years of combined experience, the legal team at Carter & Alt Duell in Salina help their clients fight to overturn bad life calls, DUI arrest, divorce, child support, and custody decisions, or protecting your Second Amendment rights. Wade Carter and Charles Alt Duell fight for you every day. Get the winning legal team at Carter & Alt Duell on your side to fight for your rights. Find them on the web at cadlawlc.com. That's cadlawlc.com.
Now back to the Kansas Wesleyan University's Coaches Show with Tyler Henry.
Welcome back in here on the KW Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group. We're joined now by safety Quitama Massaquoi. And Quitama, first and foremost, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on here.
So before we get too far into the season, I was curious. I wanted to take you back just a little ways here. What was it initially that made you want to come here to Kansas Wesleyan all the way from California and become a Coyote?
First off, I had my junior college coach. He actually played here like in 2010 through like 13, and Coach Leonard, he had took me in pretty well when I had talked to him over the phone for the first time. So out of all coaches who I talked to in my recruiting days, like this was like the choice for me. So I'm like, okay, I winning record, winning ways and stuff like that. So I really wanted to be a part of that. So
you play with such a dynamic style. I was curious, and we've asked everybody that's come on the show here, but were there any players that you kind of looked up to or maybe modeled your game after a little bit as you were growing up?
When I was younger, I really didn't play too much football. My first year of football was my freshman year of high school. So really like my idol I really looked up to when I started playing football was Tyrann Mathieu, I guess you could say. But other than that, nobody really else, honestly.
This is your second season here at Kansas Wesleyan, at least full season overall. I was curious, where do you feel like you've seen your own game grow the most?
Honestly, I've seen such a big difference since I changed from, being more so in the box to the secondary now. And as this year has just been going along, I've been learning from everybody around me. JU, since he's been on the sideline a lot, he's been helping me trying to, get myself right where I'm looking at, where my eyes are at and stuff like that. Cause, jumping from, in the box to the secondary, it's a big difference. If you didn't play there for a long time. So
well, and I did want to ask you about that. I mean, when you transition from linebacker to safety, I mean, what goes into that mentally, physically? I mean, what are some of the biggest differences? I know it's a similar skill set, but obviously it's not the same thing.
Yeah. So my coaches, they all had faith in me that I'd be able to play that position because, I have a lot of speed and stuff like that. And I was kind of excited to play it too because in junior college, I did play a little bit of safety, but I was more so of a nickel guy. But being back there in that secondary is real fun. I'm not gonna lie, because it's you get to see more and stuff like that, and it's just a whole different ball game.
Well, I was curious too. Do you prefer safety to linebacker? Do you think it maybe, I don't know, more fun to play, fits your skill set better? What do you think?
I like it. I'd probably say I'd like that nickel spot a little bit better, but yeah, I can't blame it. I can't doubt it though. It's still a lot of fun.
Well, and a selfless guy. I mean, again, you've been willing to step up, play whatever has been asked of you this year. This secondary has been fantastic so far this season. I think it's one of the biggest strengths of Kansas Wesleyan, maybe a group that's even a little underrated. What do you feel like is the biggest strength of the guys around you at corner and safety, in your opinion?
Speed for sure. We have a lot of speed guys, I'm not gonna lie, and experience is another thing too. We have a lot of JD, he's a 4-year guy. Preston, he's been here for 3 years. He's bounced around from a lot of positions also, but just having a lot of experience in the secondary. And then JU, he's kind of like the veteran of the whole defense and stuff like that. But it's kind of sad not having him play this year. But he's still a big vocal guy on the defense as well. And then Coach DQ, he played here in 22, so he's been pretty vital in how our development and stuff like that, and the things that he's teaching us in film room and stuff like that. So it's pretty good for us.
I think the thing that stands out to me the most when you watch this secondary, you guys are really good about knowing when to be aggressive, go after bad passes, make things happen, get those big splash plays, but also you don't bite too often. And I think that's one of the big things, especially with the corners and the safeties. You guys don't get roasted deep a lot trying to make, unrealistic things happen. How do you toe that line as a guy in that secondary?
Early in the season, we did have a lot of like miscommunications and stuff like that. Where we didn't really talk a lot and stuff like that, but now we're, it's just a lot of community and stuff like that. We're starting to come together. All the DBs before game days, we're always just on the phone, just having film FaceTime calls and stuff like that, talking about different things, what we should do for this play, 2x2s, 3x1s or whatnot, what we should call. So that's been a big picture in our development throughout this season this year.
You've had 2 huge picks so far this season. I wanted to go all the way back to week number 2, to that pick 6 you had against Bethany for just a second. First of all, how much fun was it to run that all the way back? And also, was there a point during that run back where you meant, man, I'm going to score this thing?
Yeah, I touched like around midfield. I'm like, dang, I see a lot of daylight. Yeah, that was real fun though. I had a lot of good blocks on that play. So shout out to my teammates on that.
One guy that I did want to ask you about, obviously, guys like Jordan Dupree are going to give you what they give you. They've been around this program for a long time, but, I've been really impressed with what you guys have gotten in the secondary out of some of the guys that, have maybe stepped up throughout the course of the year. You mentioned JU as one of those vocal leaders on that defense, but Darren Hawkins, I think, has played a really, really good safety role for this team. How have you kind of seen him grow this year in that freshman role?
It's real interesting for D-Hawk. He's been one of those guys that, he knows that he should be on the field, and early on in the season, he hasn't been on the field. He wasn't on the field as much. So him being in the games now is honestly it's a morale booster for the whole defense, because he's one of those guys, like he makes a play, he's gonna show you like, okay, I made a play and stuff like that. And in practice also, we're always chirping each other. So him being on the field now is just like, okay, like I know D-Hawk's gonna make a play, so and everybody else is gonna turn up with him. So it's real good to see him on the field, and he has been making a lot of plays, a lot of good tackles too.
I know offensively there were a lot of new pieces with this team. There were a lot of young pieces with this team, but you look at the defense for Kansas Wesleyan this year, it's a lot of veterans. It's a lot of guys that have been around this program. And to me, it's a lot of leaders. How big is that on-field leadership for guys like yourself, Josh King Bradley, and others?
That's pretty good. Even on the offensive side, we still got Woody Banks. Woody Banks is a very good vocal leader for the offense, for the younger guys and stuff like that. Defensively, we did lose a lot of key key guys like Rico Moore, and he was like the forefront of that defense last year. So like coming into this year, it's with JD, me, and a lot of more guys, just trying to keep everybody on the same page, on the same goal in mind is the biggest picture that we have in our in our back pocket and stuff. So
obviously a lot to play for coming out of the bye week, and you guys have now rolled to 3 straight wins. I know that, again, some of the teams in the Bissell aren't as quite as high par as what you see over in the Kessinger, but at the same time, what's clicked for this defense? Because you guys have gone from, I think, playing solid, but maybe being on the field a little too much to just lights out, no problems whatsoever.
Yeah. Like I said, especially because, the secondary, we starting to get like together a lot before game days and stuff like that. Thursdays, Fridays, we're always on the phone or in the film room, trying to figure out what we should do as a secondary, to be able to succeed the most and stuff like that. So having that ability to constantly be able to talk to each other, and our guys are really like intertwined. Like if you were to see us at practice or anywhere on campus, like we're always with each other and stuff like that. So, being able to do that before game days has helped us out a lot.
Well, your destiny's in your own hands. You guys win 2 more games. You end up rolling through a Bissell Division title and a spot in the NAIA playoffs. To get that done, what improvements, if any, would you like to still see out of this defense? Where do you think maybe those guys can take even another step forward here these last 2 weeks?
Just second half. Second half is our biggest key right now. Throughout the season, we haven't been too big on second half points and stuff like that. So I feel like if we stay consistent on trying to score in the second half, then we should be positively good. Like, yeah, we should be good, real good.
One last thing for you here, Q, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, how excited is everybody for a crack at some revenge here maybe against Ottawa on Saturday?
Yeah, everybody's excited, and I do got a boy back down there in Ottawa also. We've been chirping a little bit, but it should be exciting. It's going to be real fun. Everybody's saying that the record doesn't show, but they're going to bring us their all. So yeah, we're real excited for this one. Try to get that back from how it was last year. It wasn't too good of a loss last year, especially at their house. So we're all ready to get that back.
Well, Kutama, thank you so much for your time, sir. Best of luck to your Coyotes this week.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me on the show.
Once again, that was KW safety Kutama Massaquoi visiting with us here on the show. Our conversation presented, as always, by the Jeff Wells Agency of America Family Insurance. We'll step away, but the KW Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group, rolls on next here on KINA.
Harbin Construction has been showing integrity, innovation, and building relationships since 1954. Harbin has been doing amazing commercial contracting work in the Kansas area. A fun fact about KWU: Harbin Construction founded just 6 years after KWU's Memorial Library was built in 1948. This building was dedicated to the 24 students who lost their life in World War II. Students helped transport the books from Carnegie Science Hall to the new building using stretchers. Harbin Construction is a proud sponsor of the KWU Coyotes and sharing history of our Salinas College with you. Harbin, your construction partner for life.
A house fire can destroy everything you've worked so hard for in a matter of minutes. Is your home at risk? Jay's Electric in Salina can help. In addition to electrical inspections to ensure your wiring is up to snuff, Jay's offers affordable smoke detector service plans with both monthly and yearly inspection options available. Are your smoke detectors working properly? Have those batteries been replaced lately? Learn more at jayselectric.com. That's JAES electric.com. Jay's Electric, helping you power through.
Now back to the Kansas Wesleyan University's Coaches Show with Tyler Henry.
Welcome back in here on the KW Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group. We're joined here by James Bauer, offensive coordinator of your Coyotes. And Coach Bauer, welcome back to the show, sir.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
So the offense here has definitely taken a big step forward here since the bye. You guys have rattled off 3 straight wins. I was kind of curious to get your thoughts overall. What has felt different or maybe better to you on that offensive side?
They've been playing with a chip on their shoulder. They have, challenged them to be able to run the ball, and that's what the offense is built to do. We're built to run the ball, and we're built to, play action off that. And we haven't, when you're not able to run the ball like you think you should, then it's kind of affected the offense overall. So, but we challenged them. Those guys have really stepped it up, and we are being efficient in the run, to say the least.
Well, and speaking of efficient, I wanted to put some numbers to that. You guys have rattled off 873 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns in these last 3 weeks. You mentioned the run game has improved, and obviously we've all seen that. But, where have you seen that? Has it been offensive line play? Has it been a shift in the, maybe running back mentality?
Offensive line play has been phenomenal. It has really stepped up. They've been more aggressive. They've been, running through people, which is what, the challenge is, the difference in what we're running in outside zone, outside zone, I feel like those guys are trying to reach and run and get around the perimeter. And I feel like that's what the mindset they had, and it wasn't. It was just, getting through to them, and they finally figured it out. And I think it's actually like I said, I think it's clicked, and hopefully it keeps clicking for the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
Both Byron McNair and Richard Lara, I think, have been really good about engineering drives. They've played within themselves. I think the impressive stat to me, too, that, only 2 interceptions on the whole season for both of those guys combined. What has impressed you most just with the play of those two?
Just being consistent, hitting the checkdowns on some stuff. Both of them need to step up in the pocket and not scramble and leave, but they both do a good job. Like Byron needs the pocket needs to move a little bit more so he can see. And then Lara does a good job of stepping up in the pocket when he needs to. And then sometimes they both leave the pocket a little early, but they both have done a great job of just, finding their checkdowns. That's what we've been hitting. Like, you saw Armstrong, he caught it in the flats for a 30-yard gain, like it was a 3-yard gain and ended up being for 30 on 3rd and 6 or whatever it was. And it's just like, that's huge. If you can get to your playmakers in space, and it doesn't matter where they're at in the field, like the design is the design. And if you get it to them, hopefully they make something happen. You never know.
Obviously, this is the time of year where you want to be playing your best football. It feels like that's what Kansas Wesleyan is doing. Again, 3 straight wins here, in control of your own destiny. Where do you still need to see maybe even another step taken forward by this offense to close out the year with 2 big wins and claim that Bissell crown?
Consistency in the pass game. That's the biggest thing. And so, that's on me too for calling more play action. I get a little excited when our run game's going well, and kind of have that mindset of like, we are going to run the ball down their faces, and that's what we're going to do. And then, but I need to be able to have the mind to take some play action shots and do some other things, and not just get settled in there and the guys want it. But it's fun when the offensive line comes off and tells me to do not stop running the ball. So like that's, when you have that mindset and those guys, and you want to keep feeding the running backs and the offensive line, you want to keep that going. And so that's the biggest, I think, where we have improved overall.
Well, and speaking of, kind of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it with the run game. Luke Armstrong and Zarek Field give you guys just a crisp 1-2 punch. What makes each of those guys so deadly individually as you've seen them play this year?
Luke is hard to take down, man. He has a great vision for what we do in the wide zone scheme. And Zarek does a fantastic job of his inside zone, his cuts, his vision. He hits it. When he hits it. Like that first touchdown, he saw it, like he hit it out the front. He's not supposed to do that unless I tell him, if you hit it out the front, you're going to score. You better score. And then that's exactly what happened. So it's they both they have their qualities that they are different. Like I think Luke's better in outside run. I think Zarek's better in the inside run. Just kind of how it works out. And it's a matter of the 1-2 punch, I guess, just figuring out who's on the field, me seeing it, and that's me going from the box to the field. I have to be able to see that and not be able to focus on other things.
I thought it was almost dramatic last year, but this year you've had 16 different guys haul in at least one pass, and it's just been steady across the board for the most part. Outside of just Earl Gray and Woody Banks and Alexander Elam back when he was healthy, who are some guys that really impressed you with what they've contributed in the passing game?
Pearsall's done a great job. Honestly, all those guys. Like it's just been, there's not one guy that is not selfish, but like they all love when even the tight ends get the ball. Like when we scored that last touchdown, I watched the film and just watched the sideline. Everybody's excited that Shavers caught that touchdown. Like everybody, all the receivers. There's no selfishness on that, and so there's a lot of guys. Like the Pearsall's done great. K1 Casey's done great. Staples has done some big things when, has been called upon. It depends on the week in the game.
I know that we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Obviously, I'm a Saints fan, so I've got a soft spot in my heart for those Taysom Hill-esque players. Oh, yeah. Dayton Taylor has gone from, a kind of a gadget guy that comes in, he's just there to run the ball, to playing a super back position. I think to the naked eye, some casual fans of football may not have seen what he's been doing. How fun has it been to have him out there just upending guys twice his size and creating more passing lanes for that run game?
It's been fun. And then if you watch the film and you watch it, they're a little timid to go and see what's happening because they're waiting for him to do some sort of trick or do something. So that's been nice. And hopefully that keeps happening, but and you can put him back at the quarterback spot or make him go for a quarterback sneak or whatever it is. And it makes them slow down just a little bit. And it's been fun. It's been fun to design that and kind of have what the best part about it is I can run that and then they have to go to the sideline and talk about it and they avoid talking about the other things that we did. So that's the best part is as an offense coordinator, you give them something to talk about in the defense where now, okay, hey, maybe they're missing the other player. They're missing something else. So that's just those little things that we don't even have to change anything for offense. We just put him in a different position and now it's they're like, oh man, what does this mean? what do we have to, what can they do out of this? And so that's been the biggest help for us, I think.
Well, and speaking of what the other team has to deal with, again, you look at what KW presents on film. If you count Dayton Taylor, 3 different quarterbacks, 3 to 5 different runners, 16 guys that have caught a pass, how much of a nightmare must it be to try to game plan for what you guys put out there? And do you feel like that's kind of giving you an edge where you really do have to respect everybody on the field?
Yeah, and I mean, I think teams they're going to have to stop the run, and I mean that's what the biggest thing is, and that's what our receivers have to step up in times where teams are just going to pack the box, and that's what they're going to do. And it has. I hope it is a nightmare for people, and that's what we want. I want to give the illusion of being super complicated without being super complicated to my guys.
Obviously, again, the points that you guys have put on the board, the yardage you guys have been able to rack up has been great. But I also feel like what this has done is you guys have sustained more drives, kept that defense off the field and helped them stay rested. Do you think that's been a big piece of kind of just the way that unit's taken a step up as well?
Yeah, huge. It's been, a huge help to them for sure, because even on the drives like the Avila week and the St. Mary's week, we didn't score in the second half, but those were some long drives. Like I've never experienced so many of like those consecutively where it's just been like, all right, we rushed for 1,000,000 yards, but we didn't score or we didn't do our thing. So, but it's like, that's what people don't realize or understand is like, there's still good things happening. Like even if we're driving the ball, we drove for 8 minutes. Yes, we didn't score. Yes, we just got a field goal. Like those, like we were keeping our defense off the field, and like, cause depth is an issue in AI. It is like, it's just the way it's always going to be. And if you can take care of your people and take care of your guys, then it's going to just help out down the road. Like that, the more healthy you are down the road, the better off you're going to be. And like going into the playoffs and going into the last game of the season. So.
Well, last thing for you here, sir, you take a look at your matchup coming up here this week. What are the biggest challenges presented by Ottawa, specifically on defense, and what will the biggest keys be for the KW offense to keep things rolling early?
They are, they're going to pack the box. I've already seen it. That's what they do against everybody. They play man-to-man coverage, and that's their MO. That's what they've done. Coach Davis they've done a great job out there, and they play hard. Those guys play really hard. Their interior is good, and they're going to challenge you, and you just got to hammer him down with the run, hammer him with the motions, hammer with the shifts, and do all that.
Coach Bauer, thank you so much for your time, sir. Best of luck to your Coyotes against Ottawa this week.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
Once again, that was Coyote Offensive Coordinator James Bauer. We'll step away, but when we return, the KW Coaches Show presented by Billings Group rolls on. You're listening to it right here on KINA.
With record-breaking enrollment, great new facilities, and top-notch activities, Kansas Wesleyan's the place to be. Whether you want to study nursing, elementary education, criminal justice, or social work, our academic programs will open doors for your future, all while you participate in activities like music, theater, or athletics. Learn more about why KWU's the place to be by visiting kwu.edu. That's kwu.edu.
At Gambino's Pizza, we serve more toppings, more taste, and more value. Our all-you-can-eat buffet, open every day from 11 to 1:30 p.m., is the only pizza buffet in town. For only $13, every member of your family can find something they will enjoy with options like classic and specialty pizzas or the appetizers and desserts. Not in the mood for pizza? You can order a fresh salad, hearty sandwiches, or creamy pasta from the menu. Dine in at the Salina or Hayes location or order online at gambinospizza.com. You're going to love it.
Now back to the Kansas Wesleyan University's Coaches Show with Tyler Henry.
Welcome back in here on the KW Coaches Show, presented by Billings Group, where we're joined now by Chris Snyder, head coach of your Coyote Developmental Program and co-interim head coach of Kansas Wesleyan's football program. Coach Snyder, thank you again so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, you guys faced some tough competition on the developmental side. You battled some teams. Overall, what would you say was the best thing you saw out of these guys here throughout the course of the developmental season?
Yeah, I don't look at the wins and losses when you're doing this. What really sticks out to me is just how hard the kids played, how they always stuck together, never had any issues. And, it also was like that in practice too. And we made it a point to always have crossover periods for them so they can develop and everything like that. So what kind of stands out to me is just it was a really fun, good group this year that showed up all the time and really stuck together. It was fun to be around them.
Well, and the goal obviously is to grow guys to be Saturday ready. Who are some players that you feel like you saw grow the most from that first developmental game to the last game you guys played?
We got a couple of kids on defense. Brendan Allen, he's kind of in the mix a little bit for the Saturday games and everything like that. DeJour Williams up front on O-line will have a good future for us. I thought we had a pretty good group of running backs until Benedictine. We lost 2 kids in that. But yeah, I mean, just on both sides of the ball. And then you don't really know, it's kind of like recruiting. You look at a kid their senior year and like, yeah, they'll play for us. They're good enough to play. Now we'll be their sophomore, junior year, and all of a sudden they show up in the fall and they have a good year or good fall camp. And I think it's the same thing going into spring ball. Getting in Tim's workout program this off season, and spring ball really running the same plays we've been running, and now they're not thinking about it because they've heard it a million times. So I think the spring will be a real big development. I wouldn't be surprised if some kids really make a big jump.
Just generically speaking across the board, I know that, developmental programs, games, seasons, it's kind of a newer thing here to the NAIA across the board. What are some of the biggest challenges, in your opinion, to, trying to get through a full season of developmental ball? And what would you say are, some ways that you've seen it just kind of grow across the board?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough, just the programs I've been at, we've played developmental. I'm a big proponent of it. Even when I went to college, developmental back in the day, at Doane, we had it. So I believe in it. I think you try to play them earlier in the year because of health, obviously. The game of football can be a little physical. So early in the year, and in trying to find programs that are similar to you is also very beneficial, because then both programs, both teams that are playing that day are really getting something out of it. I get why you play junior college, maybe week 1, they need a game, things like that. But if you can stay within the conference or within driving distance where kids, it doesn't wear on them to take a 6-hour trip to go play a developmental game and then have to be in class Monday morning. So I think that's always your challenge, because year in and year out, you don't know what some of these programs, especially in the KCAC, are with their numbers. So that can kind of change things. So next year there could be a new 1 or 2 that wants to play, and 1 or 2 that maybe decided, no, we're not going to have the numbers, or we're having changes going on.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point, because I feel like especially, dev programs across the country, it varies widely, right? From the ones that are really taken care of to the ones that maybe get neglected a little bit. Kansas Wesleyan made kind of an all-in push here this year to really put the emphasis and the focus on the way the developmental programs were treated. Is that something that you really felt throughout the year, that support from the university that we heard about a lot early in the year?
Yeah, we get a lot of support. That I can confidently say that. I moved over here. And my first day full-time over in football was fall move-in day. So I kind of had to hit the ground running, and the schedule's already kind of set and everything like that. But yeah, I believe you're going to get more out of your program. The kids getting involved and playing and contributing. I think it's just that balancing act of how many games, because year in and year out, you don't know. You get lucky with the injury bug and vice versa. And, so for me, I think just the earlier you can play, the better for the kids. And, with the Hastings game, it got moved, and obviously they don't have enough guys to play. And this is what you kind of run into when you get into late October, early November. It just becomes a depth thing. But I love how we practice. Kids aren't holding a bag their whole freshman year. And I think our kids really appreciate it. And our coaches do a really good job of, when it's their time in practice, to run their team stuff against one another. Every coach is engaged. The older kids are having fun with it and cheering guys on. So it's a good cultural thing. But at the end of the day, it's just, how many games you play, but the support's there. We've never been told no on anything, whether it's, hey, we want to splurge and get them this food after the game, go for it. And so couldn't ask for anything more from a university standpoint.
You talk about trying to find games against teams that are similar to you. It feels like a good place to do that is within the conference. Obviously you had games this year against Benedictine. You had a game against Coffeyville Community College, but specifically the KCAC opponents that you played this year, Bethany, Southwestern, Friends, and Bethel. How do you feel the level of competition is in those games against fellow KCAC dev programs?
Yeah, they've got their fair share of good players too that are developing. I thought, Friends is just that unique animal because of the offense. And then, Benedictine had a when I talked to their head coach before the game, they had 197 kids still on their roster. So they have the numbers to throw around, but everybody else, the other teams you mentioned are kind of similar to us, that only have about so many numbers, so many QBs, so many O linemen and things like that. And at least you feel like you're going into games where both teams can be competitive and really run their offense and defense and special teams without the game getting completely out of hand. Where no kid's going to develop in that situation.
Well, and overall, just mentally, but also moving forward into potentially next season, I mean, what are the biggest lessons you feel like this team kind of took and learned throughout the course of the year?
Well, I think we talked about, sticking together, good culture. And again, it's not just practice, but we haven't had to beg the young guys to practice. I haven't had to beg the young guys to come grade check with me all season long. I mean, they're supposed to come in once a week. We talk life and grades. I'm not chasing kids down. So that, you take it for granted, but that's part of the culture building process. I see they watch the older guys and how they've handled the last couple of weeks, and like I said, nothing but good things. So they all kind of build on. So the expectation, they all lift together. They all do everything together. So that's the nice thing is it is one culture. You don't have two different cultures. Well, one culture gets to do one thing and another does another thing. So I'm excited. You hope you can keep all the kids around. There's different reasons why you may lose a kid. I talk about the life things that happen, with their parents or family back home that the kid wants to be here but can't. And so that's always your battle at a small college is the retention. But with the developmental and kids being really, really involved, will be a big part of the retention, keeping kids around because they feel wanted, they feel coached.
Well, and that's one thing that I've always loved, talking with you specifically about. You can always tell the kids come first in this program, especially in the dev program with you. But I was also curious. I mean, you mentioned these last couple of weeks, what have been some challenges of taking on, that co-interim head coach duty for primary team on Saturdays, as well as balancing everything else that you were already doing? And, again, just how do you kind of rose to overcome those, I guess?
Well, there's no credit to me. I'll say that. It helps having the people you have on staff. I mean, like whether it's, the GAs we have, Hagen, DQ, Glisson, the other position coaches, we have the coordinators, Coach Belois helps out as a volunteer. He has a real job during the day. Everybody's been bought in. Everybody knows. And, when you're already, I guess, taking over halfway during the season, you kind of already know a lot of the routine. So, it was more like, hey, we know what we need to get done before Saturday, so we don't have to meet every day for an hour, So kind of letting the coordinators do their thing. And you're just kind of more of a CEO role where there's a lot of things I'm probably doing behind the scenes that they're not aware of and vice versa. But when you have trust in people, it kind of makes it easy. You got to turn it over and let them coach and do their thing. And so I don't know if a lot changed, but some has changed. But it's been fun. But again, it's because of the kids we have and coaches. When you can walk in every day in the doors to go to work, and you're happy to see your players and your coaches, it makes it easy. Well, and last thing for you here, Coach, as we wrap up a developmental season here, overall, I mean, and taking football completely out of the equation, but just looking at the kids that you get to coach on this team, what's been your favorite thing about just getting to work with a group of young men that you've had a chance to build with this year? Yeah, I mean, every kid's got a story. You don't have favorites, that's for sure. But there are kids that tug at your heart a little bit more because you know what they've gone through to kind of keep playing at KW or keep going to school. For me, the last few weeks, what's been really new for me is just making more of a point to go over and get to know the defensive kids even more. Like I knew them, they knew me, but they didn't know my dry sense of humor or sarcasm. So really going over there and bonding with more of them, that's kind of been the fun thing to see. From a selfish point on my end, it's just reaching across over there and everything like that. But yeah, it's just we were just showing a clip of one of the clips we're going to show of one of our touchdowns to the kids, and just seeing that sideline, the coaches jumping around. Even me, I didn't know I even could move like that after a touchdown. Like that's just seeing the kids and coaches have fun has just been probably one of the biggest rewards right now. Well, Coach Snyder, thank you so much for your time, sir, and thanks again for coming by today. Thank you very much.
Once again, that was developmental head coach Chris Snyder here on the KW Coaches Show. And that'll just about wrap it up here for us on the show. But before we go, a special thank you to Coach Leonard, to Coach Snyder, to Coach Bauer, and to Kwatama Massaquoi for joining us today. And a reminder that the Coyotes are back in action this Saturday at 1 o'clock to take on Ottawa. Pre-game coverage on KINA begins at noon. But until next time, I've been Tyler Henry saying good night and roll Yotes.
This has been a presentation of Kansas Wesleyan University's Coaches Show with Tyler Henry, brought to you by CADLaw and Eagle Communications on the Kansas Wesleyan University Network and KINA.